Okay, so there's this metal, and I bet you've probably never even heard of it. But it has quietly become one of the most critical and, yeah, expensive materials on the entire planet. Today, we're going to dive deep into the story of this so-called war metal and figure out why its price is suddenly making huge waves.
Look at that number. Just let it sink in. Over $2,200. That is the unbelievable price for a single metric ton unit of ammonium paratungstate, which is basically the industry benchmark for tungsten. We're talking an all-time high, and it's sending absolute shockwaves through the defense and tech industries.
And this is where it gets crazy. This chart just lays it all out. Go back to early 2024, and this stuff was trading for about $320. Fast forward to today, and it's 7 times higher. So the billion-dollar question is, what on earth happened?
So, to really get why the price went nuts, we got to back up a little. We need to understand the metal itself. Let's take a look at what actually makes tungsten so special. All right, here it is. On the left, that's it on the periodic table, element number 74, with the symbol W. Now that W is interesting. It actually comes from its old name, wolfram. And on the right, you can see what it looks like when you pull it out of the ground. For a long, long time, this was just another industrial metal, kind of hiding in plain sight. But, this isn't just any old metal. Tungsten has what I like to call 2 superpowers. First, its melting point is the highest of any metal on Earth. We're talking over 3,000 degrees Celsius. And second, it is incredibly dense, almost as dense as gold. Just those 2 properties make it totally irreplaceable for some really, really important jobs.
And this quote, wow, it just nails its modern role, doesn't it? The kinetic heart of the military-industrial complex. It's not just a strong metal anymore. It's become a core ingredient for 21st century warfare. And that right there is the heart of this whole global crisis.
So the big question, right? Why now? What made the price just explode? Well, it wasn't just one thing. It was a geopolitical perfect storm with a bunch of global forces all colliding at the exact same time.
This chart, this tells you a huge part of the story. For decades, China has controlled more than 80% of the entire world's tungsten production. Now, whenever one country has that much of a stranglehold on a critical resource, they're holding a very powerful card. It's a geopolitical playbook we're seeing more and more.
And then, last year, Beijing decided to play that card. They banned the export of key tungsten technologies, effectively weaponizing their supply chain. For the U.S. and its allies, who have next to no domestic production, this created an instant, massive supply crisis.
And this is why alarm bells are ringing in Washington and other Western capitals. You simply cannot build the most advanced modern weapons without tungsten. Its sheer density lets munitions punch right through tank armor. Its insane heat resistance is the only reason the nose cones on hypersonic missiles don't just melt into slag. It's even being used in new anti-drone systems. For a lot of countries, getting a secure supply is now a matter of national survival.
This timeline just shows how quickly things spiraled out of control. China's export ban lit the fuse, but the ongoing conflict in the Persian Gulf poured gasoline on the fire, acting as a massive accelerant. Countries are burning through their tungsten stockpiles for munitions. And the projection? It's pretty grim. If this keeps up, Western stockpiles could be completely empty by September.
Okay, so you've got this perfect storm, right? China slams the door shut. Demand is going through the roof, and boom, you've got this massive void in the market. And that has kicked off a frantic race among a handful of Western companies to bring new, non-Chinese supply to the world. All right, so let's look at the players rushing to fill this gap. First up, we have EQ Resources, an Australian company that right now is basically the king of the hill in the Western tungsten game.
The thing about EQ Resources and why they're such a big deal right now is that they are already pulling tungsten out of the ground. They restarted an old mine called Mount Carbine at the absolute perfect time, and now they're reporting these huge increases in output. So it's no surprise their stock has been on a tear. The market has definitely woken up to what they're doing.
Okay, next on the list, Viking Mines. They're another Australian-listed company, but their game plan is all about American soil.
Now, Viking did something really smart. They made a huge strategic pivot, buying up some really high-grade tungsten projects in Nevada. This is a masterstroke because it positions them to build a desperately needed domestic U.S. supply chain completely independent of foreign powers. And rounding out our top 3 is Tungsten West, a UK company that's sitting on an absolute giant. See, they own this mine called Hemerden, and it's not just any mine.
It's the third biggest tungsten deposit in the entire world. For years, it was just too expensive to operate, but with this price surge, the economics have totally flipped. It's completely changed the game, and now they're in a race to restart production, which could be perfect timing.
So let's just do a quick side-by-side here. You've got EQ Resources in Australia, who are already in the game and expanding. You have Viking Mines in the U.S., building out that critical domestic supply. And then you have Tungsten West in the U.K., sitting on a world-class giant deposit. 3 very different companies, each with a really powerful angle in this unfolding crisis.
Okay, before we wrap up, we absolutely have to talk about the risk factor here, because this whole situation is incredibly dynamic and things are moving fast.
And let me be crystal clear about this. Nothing we've talked about is financial advice. The world of commodities is, by its very nature, extremely volatile. Geopolitics can change overnight, and believe me, the markets can move just as fast. So as always, please do your own research.
Which really leaves us with one final, pretty heavy thought. We started all this by looking at a commodity price, over $2,000. But as you've seen, this story is about so much more than just money. It's about security, it's about technology, and it's about global power. It really makes you wonder, in a world like this one, what is the real price of survival?